There's a pattern to how the most inspiring leaders behave. They speak, act, and think from a place that feels deeper than logic. They don't just do things better, they do things for a reason. That reason is what draws others to follow, to believe, to sacrifice, and to contribute. This is the quiet foundation of great leadership. Not authority, not charisma, but clarity of purpose. In any organization, whether it's a business, a public agency, or a school district, those who begin with a deep belief tend to endure. And those who drift into only doing, without remembering why they began, often fade. All the inspiring leaders and companies, regardless of their size or industry, think, act, and communicate from the inside out. That inside-out approach begins not with results or metrics, but with something more elemental: a cause, a purpose, a belief. Leaders who capture the hearts of their people do not begin with what they do or how they do it. They begin with why they exist in the first place. That one simple idea, so often overlooked, is what Sinek explains through real stories, examples, and principles. And for those of us in leadership roles, particularly in public service, that clarity can be the difference between compliance and commitment. Very few people or companies can clearly articulate why they do what they do. When I say why, I don't mean to make money. That's a result. By why I mean, what's your purpose, cause, or belief? Why does your organization exist? Too often, leaders focus on outcomes and overlook the internal beliefs that drive people to show up every day. Policies are published, memos sent, reports submitted, but somewhere in the noise, the mission gets lost. That's why belief must be the heartbeat of leadership. We are not just here to manage. We are here to lead a cause worth following. And in many cases, especially in government, our greatest resource is the belief of our people. When they lose that, they don't just disengage. They disappear emotionally. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Think about the great movements in history, not just organizations. The civil rights movement didn't start with legislation. It started with belief. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions not because he had a 10-point policy plan, but because he stood for a dream. He led with conviction, not convenience. His famous speech wasn't called, "I have a plan." It was called, "I have a dream." That's the power of starting with purpose. Martin Luther King Jr. gave the "I have a dream" speech, not the "I have a plan" speech. In institutions like education departments, regional offices, hospitals, and municipal governments, the daily work can feel heavy. Bureaucracy, pressure, and politics can dull the soul. But when we remember our why, to serve, to uplift, to empower, our work becomes meaningful again. That clarity doesn't make the work easier. It makes it worth it. Achievement happens when we pursue and attain what we want. Success comes when we are in clear pursuit of why we want it. We have to ask ourselves regularly, what belief is driving this initiative? What conviction stands behind this decision? Is this just what we do? Or is this a reflection of who we are? When leaders communicate belief consistently, they build trust. When they make decisions aligned with that belief, they build culture. And when they ignore it, they invite cynicism. Trust is a feeling, not a rational experience. We trust some people and companies even when things go wrong, and we don't trust others even though everything might have gone right. Trust, then, is not just built on competence. It's built on consistency of belief. If your people know what you stand for and see you act on it even when it's difficult, they will trust you. They will follow you, not because they have to, but because they want to. This is the essence of leadership. Not control, but influence. Not managing behavior, but inspiring belief. Leading is not the same as being the leader. Being the leader means you hold the highest rank. Leading means others willingly follow you, not because they have to, not because they are paid to, but because they want to. This idea transcends roles and titles. It applies to regional directors, school heads, department managers, policymakers. Whether you lead 1,000 or 5, your influence comes from your ability to clearly express and live out your purpose. That purpose becomes your anchor when the pressure rises and the direction seems unclear. There are only 2 ways to influence human behavior. You can manipulate it or you can inspire it. Manipulation gets things done, but at what cost? Morale drops. Initiative fades. People begin to ask, what's the point? But when you inspire, your team taps into their own energy. They work harder, not because they are told to, but because they want to contribute to something they believe in. To do that, a leader must not only speak about purpose, they must embody it, walk it, celebrate it, remind others of it in times of success and stress alike. This is what separates managers from visionaries. The greatest leaders we remember were not perfect. They were clear. Their clarity gave others courage. If the leader of the organization can't clearly articulate why the organization exists, then how can anyone else? This clarity must begin with us. As leaders, we must be ruthlessly introspective. What is our why? Why did we choose this profession? Why do we stay? If the answer is just a title, a salary, or the next promotion, we've lost our footing. But if it's to make change, to serve people, to improve lives, then that belief must shine through every decision we make. When we mentor others, hire staff, or create policy, our why must be present. The interview isn't just about qualifications, it's about alignment. Is this person drawn to the same cause? Do they believe in what we're building? Because those who believe will stay longer, contribute more, and innovate faster than those who simply comply. When employees belong, they will guarantee your success. When they don't, they will look for something to belong to. Belonging is rooted in belief. Our people need to know they're part of something that matters. As leaders, we can create that by starting with why. Not once, but again and again. In briefings, in trainings, in town halls. Repeating the belief behind the work until it becomes culture. Let's be honest, this is not easy. Purpose is not always efficient. But efficiency without meaning is hollow. The best institutions are not the ones with the fastest systems. They're the ones with the strongest cultures. And culture is built on why. It's not the genius at the top giving directions that makes people great. It's great people that make the guy at the top look like a genius. In your agency, office, or region, what would change if every team member knew your why? How would performance improve if people felt connected to a larger purpose? What if your programs, policies, and protocols didn't just function, but inspired? When belief is strong, resilience follows. Setbacks are endured. Obstacles are seen as challenges, not defeats. And victories are shared, not just celebrated by leaders, but owned by everyone. That's the power of why. Remember, your purpose is your leadership currency. Use it wisely. Communicate it relentlessly. Align with it daily. Because when you start with why, you don't just manage tasks. You move people. You create impact. And you leave a legacy no policy document can ever fully capture. There are only two ways to influence behavior. You can manipulate it, or you can inspire it. This powerful line from Simon Sinek draws a clear boundary between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. Manipulation involves using fear, pressure, or temporary incentives to control behavior. While it may generate immediate results, it rarely earns long-term loyalty or genuine commitment. On the other hand, inspiration taps into belief, purpose, and meaning, inviting people to act not out of compliance, but out of conviction. For leaders in any field, be it education, public service, or governance, this distinction is crucial. Do our people work because they have to, or because they want to? Manipulation often appears in subtle forms, dangling promotions, threatening consequences, overloading metrics. It creates environments where people perform out of survival, not significance. Over time, such workplaces erode trust. Employees become disengaged, innovation dries up, and resentment builds. The focus shifts from serving a cause to preserving one's own safety or position. Manipulated people may follow the rules, but they won't follow the leader. They'll stay in line, but not invest their energy or creativity. That's the cost of coercion. It delivers results, but drains the spirit. In contrast, inspiration is deeply human. It appeals to the heart and not just the head. It doesn't just tell people what to do. It shows them why their work matters. Inspired teams feel seen, heard, and valued. They don't just perform tasks. They pursue purpose. Leaders who inspire don't lead with fear, but with vision. They paint a picture of what's possible and invite others to help build it. They foster belief, not burnout. And because of that, inspired workers stay longer, lead others, and often exceed expectations. Not because they were forced to, but because they care. Inspirational leadership takes more effort. It requires self-awareness, consistent values, and a clear why. It means listening deeply, communicating with authenticity, and aligning every action with the organization's core mission. But the return on that investment is extraordinary. People who are inspired don't need constant supervision. They carry the mission in their hearts, not just in their job descriptions. They become ambassadors of the vision, bringing it to life in every meeting, every client interaction, and every decision they make. So the real question for every leader is this: when you speak, lead, and act, are you manipulating or inspiring? Are you offering people a task or inviting them into a mission? Influence is inevitable when you're in a position of authority. But the kind of influence you choose determines the culture you build and the legacy you leave. True leadership doesn't manipulate people into action. It moves them with meaning.